Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm installing an SYE kit into the Spooky Jeep here. If you're new here, welcome to my channel and don't forget to subscribe. So if you have more than 3 inches of lift, it's a good idea to install a slip yoke eliminator. The kit that I purchased on Amazon. It's made by Rubicon Express. You can find it at 4 Wheel Parts. I'll go ahead and I'll put a link in the description down below for it. This is everything here that came in the kit. We got some instructions. We've got our main housing here. Now it comes with bearings pre-installed as well as a seal pre-installed. We've got our nut to hold on our yoke, our new main shaft, our new yoke. Also comes with the new speedometer gear. It came with the front output seal. The rear seal is missing out of the kit. It says that there's one in the kit and there is not. But that's alright, we'll just use more RTV. Also got some snap rings as well as the nut. Let's see. And also a plug. We've got this plug here, and we'll have more on this plug later. Now that we've got it on our workbench here, the first thing we want to remove is this front drive shaft yoke here. And in order to do so, there is a nut on the inside. I'm not 100% sure on what the size is, but an inch and an 1/8 socket fits on it pretty good. It's a little bit loose, so I'm assuming it's a metric socket. I don't have one on me. It's kind of going to be hard to remove. You're going to have to be able to wedge something in here or hit it with an impact to be able to get it loose. We are going to be reusing this piece, so you want to hang on to it. And then your yoke should just slide right off. So the next thing we're going to pull apart is you want to remove your speedometer gear. Now this here is your sending unit. All you got to do is remove this bolt here. This little fork will come off and this should pull straight out. And I believe this is a 13 millimeter. Once again, you want to make sure we hang on to that part because we are going to be reusing all of this here. Next thing we're going to want to do is remove this dust cover right here. Now this should just slide off. It's got some banding on it. This should slide off pretty easy. And then you're going to want to pry this metal piece here off. Now I did end up damaging this housing right here when I was trying to get the dust cover off. Does not matter. We're not going to be reusing this housing. The next thing we're going to do is remove all these bolts for this piece of the housing. They're 10 millimeter bolts, and then we're going to pry it off. I am getting ahead of myself a little bit. We want to remove this ring here, as well as there's a couple of snap rings in here that need to be removed as well. So that snap ring was a bear. I do encourage you to buy the right pair of pliers. These are just some standard snap ring pliers that I've actually broke in the past. So I thought that they would work out okay. They are not working okay, but it's all I got. This dust cover right here actually has to come off as well. So we're just going to beat the hell out of it to get it off. Now that that's off there, we can go ahead and flip this back up. And there's another snap ring right in here that has to come off. Beautiful. Now we can go ahead and remove this housing. Next thing we're going to do is remove our pump. Now, there's a pickup for the pump connected to the bottom down here. Be careful not to break it. But you should just be able to push it kind of out of the way and then remove your pump. It goes in here in the bottom, and if you can see it right here. We're going to set our pump aside because we are going to be reusing that. Now that that's taken care of, we can go ahead and split our case. Now in order to split your case, you've got a bunch of bolts around here. Mine are 15 millimeter and I have one 12.10 millimeter. Now this has been worked on before, so I don't know if those are the original bolts. One would assume that they should all be the same, am I right? But we're going to go ahead and pull all those next. Now a lot of the instructions that I've read has said to take note of where these bolt locations are because they are different. Now that that's done, there's a couple of prying locations. There's one over here, as well as one right here. This is where you're going to stick your screwdriver or your prying implement in to pry on your case. That way you're not gouging anything. So we're going to go ahead and pry there. Now that this is off, you want to make sure that your bearing in here is good. You've got some needle bearings in here. As well as you want to clean every little bit of gasket off of this surface and try not to gouge into this case here. You also want to make sure that your chain doesn't have too much play in it. Now, realistically, you're going to have some play in here just because, I mean, this is loose and this is loose, right? When it turns, you should have no drag. Like, because a lot of times these will get so loose that they will actually rub the bottom of the transfer case, and that is not good. Now what you want to do is pull off your pickup and your filter. This is just a screen filter. You want to make sure to clean this very, very well. You will also have a magnet down here in the corner. If you've got an excessive amount of metal on here, and by excessive I mean chunks, you need to look into where the chunks are coming from because something's not right. A little bit of metal in here is okay. You will always have shavings of metal in here. Alright, now that all that's removed, you want to grab your front. You want to grab your front output and your rear output at the same time and lift them both out together. Alright, we can go ahead and pull out our main shaft and set our front aside for now. And now we can proceed to remove this whole assembly off of the main shaft. Once again, take our brand new snap ring pliers. There's a snap ring right here. I'm going to go ahead, pull that off. Slide that lock ring up and out of the way. And that whole assembly just slides right off like so. Next thing you want to do is, now that this is off, we're going to go ahead and slide this on to our new shaft here. So some of the older models have needle bearings in here. You want to press them out before you slide all this together because it just won't fit. In later models, they went ahead and got rid of the needle bearings and just made it smooth. But you want to make sure you get rid of those. It's a little pack of needle bearings before you slide it all together. Or you can even start to slide it together and use your main shaft to help drive those bearings out. But in this case, because it's a 99, we don't have that issue. So once you get that together, you can install one of your new lock rings. Alright, before I move on to any next steps, I want to make sure that I get this cleaned out really good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean the surface here as well as clean the inside, and I'll be right back with you guys. Alright, so with everything clean, our next step is to install both our shafts into the assembly. You want to make sure that you install them together and go straight down in. Might take a little bit of turning to get them lined up right. Now once you're at this point here, you do want to pour a little ATF on everything and let it seep on through, kind of move it around a little bit. You want to pre-lube it pretty good. That way you don't have any dry parts when you first get going. Now we're at this point here, you want to make sure to return your magnet into its proper place. And you want to make sure that you have your oil pickup tube and your pump ready. What we're going to do is you want to put your sealant on your surface surrounding all bolt holes. I'm using the right stuff because, as always, it is truly the right stuff. Now when you do this, you want to make sure that you surround all bolt holes. Now we're going to install the other half of our case, but you want to make sure that you do not forget about your pump and your filter here. And you're going to actually feed your pump on through. And it's going to set in on down just like that. I'm going to slowly lower it. Now what we want to do is we're going to snug up all of our bolts just until we start seeing some of that sealant come out. And make sure you put the bolts where they go. The longer bolts go with the pins. Alright, we're all snugged up, and now we want to torque them to 20 to 25 inch-pounds. Sorry, 20 to 25 foot-pounds. So we're all torqued down. The next thing you're going to want to do is shift it into 4x4. You want to shift this into 4-wheel drive. That will allow this to come up, and it should be sitting right at about an inch, this little rod right here. If it is higher than that, you will need to trim it down. Some of these are about 1.5 inches long. Some of the older ones are. If it is at 1 inch, you're good to go. This one's at 1 inch, so we're not worried about it. If it is more than 1 inch, you'll have to trim it down. Otherwise, it will not fit right here. Another way to check is to set this in place where it goes. See if it clears. And if it doesn't, then you know that you got a problem. You're going to have to trim it. The next thing we're going to do is install our speedometer gear. Now there's 2 snap rings that go along with your speedometer gear. You want to slide one all the way on first, then your gear, and then slide the next one on. Now you want to make sure that you put some ATF in here before you slide it together. It will help. You want to make sure that nothing's dry when you put it together. So go ahead and put some ATF on there. Now that that's taken care of, you want to make sure that you clean. You want to make sure that you clean your surface here so that it's free of all ATF, any impurities. as well as the surface of your new tail housing. That way when we put our RTV on there, it doesn't cause any issues. Alright, so for our next part, we're going to run some RTV around in here. What I recommend doing is adding it to your tail housing itself. The reason being is you can see where there's like a little valley here for oil to flow, as well as openings here. You don't want to get a ton of RTV where it shouldn't be. For this outer portion, just because I don't have enough of the right stuff, I'm actually going to be using some automatic transmission gasket maker. Once again, you want a small bead all the way around and surrounding all bolt holes. Now we're going to carefully slide this piece into place. And get our bolt started. Now that you're all snugged up, you want to torque these ones to 15 to 20 foot-pounds. If you have an older Cherokee that has the vacuum system, that's where this would connect to here. If you do not have the vacuum system, they provide a plug with a little seal, and they also recommend that you use RTV on the seal. The next thing you're going to do is install your speedometer here. You want to rub some ATF on your O-ring as well as in the housing here. Now this is an odd shape, so when you stick it in there, it will actually clock to the right spot. So you get it lined up and get it in there, twist it into place. When the two gears meet, you know you're in the right spot. Once it's clocked in the right spot, you can go ahead and reinstall your retaining clip. So the next thing we're going to do is you want to make sure to clean your splines on inside your yoke as well as on your shaft really good. And you want to rub some ATF along the outside of your yoke to try to lube that up really good. Once you've done that, you want to put some RTV onto the splines, or sealant or gasket maker, whatever you want to call it, onto the splines of the shaft, as well as maybe a little inside the splines on your yoke. Not too much though, you don't want any dropping down in, but at the same time, if you use too little, it did you no good, right? And I'm just going to try to give it a nice coat here, as well as on the inside. Slide that down on in. Now because mine did not come with the seal that goes in here, the spline seal, I'm going to go ahead and run a little bit more around in here where the seal would go and call that good. Now that that's done, we can go ahead and add our nut. Now this one torques to 140 to 150 foot-pounds. Now we just got to repeat the process for the front yoke. Okay, that is it. Now all you got to do is reinstall your transfer case same way it came out. Simple as that. Do not forget your fluids. Do not forget to install your drive shaft. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And as always, don't forget to subscribe. Happy Halloween. Okay. Don't forget to check out these videos over here. Don't forget to subscribe. So, in a surprising turn of events, I gave up struggling, went and bought a pair of real lock ring pliers, and believe it or not, my local Napa Auto Parts store had them in stock and they were like 15 bucks.